We have some breaking news. The Republican caucus in the House has voted for who they would like to be the next speaker, and Steve Scalise has beaten Jim Jordan. The vote was 113 to 99. This was a secret ballot, so it's not exactly confirmed how everyone voted. This is just the vote among the Republican sector. Obviously, this is not the entire House voting. So this is Republicans saying, we want Steve Scalise to be our candidate. So ideally, because the Republicans have a very slim majority in the House, if they all voted for Steve Scalise, then he would become the next speaker. Interestingly enough, we have all this dissension. Representative Lauren Boebert and then also Max Miller, Republicans, who have said that they voted for Jim Jordan in this race, and that they still intend to vote for Jim Jordan when the House votes on the whole. So if there's too many more of those, then we're going to be in this situation where a minority of Republicans, just a couple of them, are voting not for Scalise. They're voting for some other Republican, Jordan. They're not voting for Scalise. All the Democrats are not voting for Scalise, and he wouldn't have enough to actually become House Speaker. So we are not out of the woods yet.
Well, in fact, Representative Ken Buck has said he'll vote for neither candidate, which all but guarantees that we're going to be in the same situation that we were in last week. Now, interestingly, none of those people, except for Ken Buck, were part of the original 8 that declined to vote for Kevin McCarthy last week. So in addition to Andy Biggs, Tim Burchett, Eli Crane, Matt Gaetz, Bob Good, Nancy Mace, Matt Rosendale, and Ken Buck, these new defectors, Lauren Boebert and Max Miller, are now added to the pile. Now, Lauren Boebert, of course, was part of the holdout back in January, but she declined to join the 8, which really speaks to the fact that even though there were these 8 holdouts, they weren't representative of all of the people who were frustrated with the choice of speaker. So, yeah, the plan is for them to vote as a House on the speaker later this evening.
We can't tell you what's going to happen.
Real big question marks there.
It is not a guarantee at all that Scalise gets it. Now, of course, the 8 holdouts could presumably, many of them or all of them, we don't know exactly about, as Jordan supporters. They could, I mean, what you're supposed to do from the standpoint of just the Republican Party is, even if you voted in the private election for someone else, that doesn't matter. In the general election for the House, where the Democrats are voting too, a united front, we're just all voting for who we already selected. That would be, from the party standpoint, that's what they're supposed to do, including these defectors. Now, again, Lauren Boebert, who was not among the defectors, as you said, has already said she's not going to do that. Will those other 8 people fall in line, and will Scalise eke it out by the narrowest of margins?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people, now that I think about it. Byron Donalds was a big actor in the January force the vote moment.
No, he was put forth as a candidate.
He was one of the in one of the 15 rounds of voting, one of the candidates. And you haven't heard much from him in the context of this.
Republican leadership hates this. They hate this. They think we should have a private vote. There you can dissent all you want. There you can say, I want this person, I want this person. But once the majority has ruled within the caucus, then we're all supposed to put forth that name. And a bunch of Republicans just saying, no.
And of course, the specter of funding for Israel is hanging over all of this. Are the holdouts, many of whom were holdouts specifically because of the issue of U.S. funding foreign wars instead of using it domestically?
This is how the mainstream media is going to, of course, spin it. Yeah. Treasonous Republicans thwart funding to Ukraine and Israel by making stance, something like that.
But it is the case that many of the people who have complained about funding to Ukraine, who were key actors in the ouster of Kevin McCarthy, people like Byron Donalds, have come out very strongly in support of Israel. His most recent tweet as of 12 minutes ago is a picture of Donald Trump in a yarmulke at the Wailing Wall, saying that Israel has no greater ally in the White House than Trump, and saying we need to back and support Israel. So, I do think
this tweet doesn't specifically say anything about sending them another aid package.
It doesn't. But his tweet before that is also stand with Israel. I don't know what that means.
Well,
in this context,
we will find out if they think it's so important that they're going to not cause a fight over the next speaker. I think that fight is happening regardless.
Yeah, it'll be really fascinating to see who has a principled ethic around foreign spending and who specifically is opposed to the war in Ukraine for whatever reason. But I think a lot of the reason up to this point has been because it's seen as Biden's war. It's a way to hit Biden to be against the war in Ukraine. And this is a big question for anti-war activists. Who do you want to ally with? Who is a really serious ally in the fight against U.S. imperialism if it's so conditional?
Yeah. Well, stay tuned, folks. We will have an update on this situation tomorrow, and we'll have more Rising right after this.